Please stand by.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
What is your name?
I am Jay Ramone, and this is the Jay Ramone Podcast.
If the FCC knew you were doing drugs on the air, shut us down!
This gets more work done more accurately.
I will sit down with bands, artists, chefs, business owners, and fellow Oklahomans to talk about their projects and dealing with day-to-day life.
This stuff can give you brain damage.
This is the Jay Ramone Podcast.
Power of the internet is truly amazing.
This is the Jay Ramone Podcast, and I am here with Brady from Shark Bite Media. And first of all, tell me a little bit about Shark Bite Media and exactly what all you do.
Well, I'm mostly a promoter, so I'm a local show promoter. I put together shows at multiple venues, 89th Street, Resident Head. Sometimes I do like smaller DIY stuff. I do graphic design too. I do logos and all of my media myself, so all of the flyers and all of that stuff is me. And yeah, that's what Shark Bite is for the most part.
Okay, because you reached out to me, I don't know, it's been a few years now, and you were sending me music for a couple of bands. Are you also in one of those bands?
Yeah, so I drum for a band called Falsetto, which you actually
okay,
played.
That was the band you sent me.
Yeah. I drum for that band, so that's what I do too.
I just knew that you kind of had an all-encompassing, company, if you will, that put on shows that kind of helped in every facet of the music industry and the local scene and whatnot.
Yeah.
So where can people find Shark Bite Media online?
I have a Facebook. I have an Instagram account. We're on Threads. And that's about it. I think I post my shows on a local app called Fanways. And so some of my shows get posted there too, but that's about all the places I am right now. I have a TikTok, but it's just me personally, so I haven't made one for that yet.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. You have a show coming up this weekend at 89th, so let's plug it and talk about it before we go any further.
So I have a show Saturday. It's not at 89th. I just had a show at 89th.
I'm sorry. I was looking at your flyers and I got it mixed up.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, I have a show this Saturday. It's actually at like a smaller event center that we haven't used before, but we have a touring band called Fall 50 Feet. They're like metalcore, kind of post-hardcore. They're kind of lean heavy and sometimes they're not. They're from West Virginia on tour. And then we have like a blackened death metal band called Sparrows that just happen to be needing a date the same day. So we put that together for them. And we have three really cool locals, Tar Creek, which is a hardcore band, Hollow Thoughts, which is a hardcore band, and then Tainted Beef, which is some young kids. They're all the way from like Lawton. And they're like slam hardcore metal, and they are like some of the coolest kids I've ever seen. Like they're always down to have a good time. They don't care what the show is or who's playing or where it is. They just want to play shows. And so we have that this weekend at a place called the Swice Center. It's like an event center over here in like Northwest Oklahoma City. So that's what we got going on this weekend. I
grew up in college, especially going to a bunch of DIY shows. And so I'm no stranger to the event centers. Like when my old band was first starting out, we would always rent the VFW halls in these small towns that were outside of Tulsa. And a lot of times it wasn't even a rental. A lot of times it was just a deposit. As long as you clean the place, you got your deposit back, which made it way easier to pay touring bands. Yeah, that's kind of what this one is. It is by the hour, but I did do a deposit, so like we'll get some of the money back. But me not owning a venue and being a promoter can be hard sometimes. So sometimes I have to come up with interesting ideas to make things happen for bands. Yeah, because you're not the only one in town doing the same thing. And so the venues get booked real quick, especially when there is a big festival or something happening 300 miles away, because all of those bands are looking for routing to get back home or to continue the tour.
Yeah,
Like
that
when you
happens a
look
lot.
back in the day when South by Southwest was getting close, that was the best time to catch everybody, because you would catch them before or after. They would be coming to, to Austin or away from Austin. And so you could pretty much catch anybody you wanted to within an hour.
That happened back when I first started booking. It was like a year into booking. People kept telling me to book Kublai Khan, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll try. I was pretty small at the time, and I emailed their agent, and I was just like, do you think they could come up to Oklahoma City? And he replied like the same day. He's like, yeah, they have time right after So What Festival. They can come up right after that. And I was like, okay, cool. And like, it just worked out like magically that they just had time because they were already going to be in Dallas. So like they came up, and it was just one of those things where like, it was just like the stars aligned kind of thing.
Now I'm familiar with the band's music and I've seen them once, but I've heard that one of the guys was from the Durant area and a couple of them are from the Sherman Denison area.
Yeah, they've always mostly claimed Sherman, but I know one or two of them did live like South Oklahoma. I think all of them don't live here anymore. I think most of them claim Dallas, and their vocalists might not even be in Texas anymore. I think they're all kind of spread out now, but yeah, they claim
do
Sherman.
that now. As a band, especially if you make your money touring and stuff, it doesn't really matter where you live. Like when it's time to go to work, you're going to be gone anyway.
Well, it's funny because there's a pretty famous band from Tulsa called Outline and Color. They're like a metalcore band, and for a while, none of them lived in Tulsa. They all were from Tulsa, and then I remember trying to book them, and they were all just like, "Oh yeah, well we'll have to see you when we're in town and stuff." Because one of them lived in Denver, and one of them lived in like Nashville, and I was just like, "What?" And then now I think they all have moved back to Oklahoma. Funny enough, but like for a while, like all 5 of their people didn't even live in the state, and they're like, "Yeah, we're from Tulsa." I'm like, "But none of you live here." It was weird.
That's the way it works sometimes, especially with musicians and artists in general who have that artist mindset.
Yeah.
You may be from somewhere, but you're kind of a gypsy. You just kind of float around until you find your people.
Well, even like my band, we're just a local band, but not all of us even live in the city. Like my bass player, she lives in Lawton. She drives up every week to come to practice, like an hour and a half.
Wow.
So, and we had 2 people doing that for a little bit. So like even my own band that's just from here is not all from like the same place. 3 of us live in
That's
Utah.
pretty impressive.
But yeah, it's when you want to play music, you'll make stuff work.
Okay, so what came first? The graphic design, the promoting shows, or being in a band?
I think being in a band and graphic design were kind of at the same time, because I did graphic design in high school. I went to Votech for that. And the band was probably around the same time. Like my guitarist is also my best friend, and we met in high school and we went to Votech together. So like we were making a band at the same time as us learning how to do graphic design, like when we were like 18, 17. So those were probably roughly the same time, but we stopped playing music in like 2012. Our band broke up and I just didn't play music for a while, but I kept doing graphic design. And the graphic design is kind of what led me into doing promoting, because I made flyers for people all the time. Like all of my friends were like, "Hey, can you make me a flyer real quick?" And then I used to do it kind of on like contract for some other local promoters. And then eventually it just led me into like being interested in just doing it myself, like booking. So I set up like a house show, and then like the ball just kind of rolled downhill from there. After that house show, I was just like, oh, this is fun. And I just kind of kept doing it.
Do you remember who the bands were that you booked for that house show?
Oh man, if I could find the flyer, because it was like 2015 or 14.
So not that long ago, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it was not that long ago, but like I wasn't Shark Bite Media at the time, so it was like a small band from Texas. Some metal band wanted to come up here because they knew people or something, and my friend would hold house shows at his house out in like Mustang, and I was like, "Hey, I can throw y'all a house show." And I asked a couple locals, and like it just like a ton of people came, and I was like, "What is this? Like, what's going on?" It was like overwhelming because I didn't know what was going to happen. But it was cool, and then I was like, "Oh, I think I should keep doing this. This was fun." And I did it under a different name for a couple years, and then I kind of got burnt out on it. Just got like a regular job again, and then when I joined this band is when I got back into promoting, and a lot of it was to help our band. Like we were having a hard time getting on shows and stuff, and I just kind of got frustrated with it. I was like, well, I used to book shows. Like this shouldn't be that hard. So I just started putting shows together, and then I just throw my band on here and there every now and then this kind of snowballed again into booking, and now I'm doing it like just as much, if not more, than I used to back then.
It's crazy. There are so many bands that are touring bands that are looking for a routing date or for a promoter to put on a show and put other bands on it just so they have somewhere to play in front of people, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's a huge void for it. And especially with all ages venues, you're very limited on the number of smaller all ages venues that it's financially responsible to rent and put on a show. Like anybody could go out and rent any of these big concert venues and put whatever bands in there. But it's not that, feasible in a lot of cases because you're not going to pack out 1,000 people on a lot of these shows. Yeah. These are smaller crowds. You need a smaller venue, and there's just not that many of them.
Yeah, I've definitely ran into that when I've messaged certain venues that I'm like, could you guys help me out? And they're like, they did just give you like an astronomical quote on like a room. And I'm like, well, I know it doesn't cost you that much to operate the room. So why would it cost me like 5 times just to rent it from you? So that's why I'm thankful for places like 89th Street that give me a really good deal and have always worked with me, and they don't charge me some crazy thing, and they give, and we've always had a good working relationship. So, and even Resonant Head is like, and they used to not even work with promoters when they first opened. They were just their own thing. But luckily, like, they knew who I was, and 89th Street kind of stuck their neck out like, hey, you should work with him. He does good stuff. So like, I'm thankful for the places that are all ages that, do let people do like what I do, come in and work with them and, maybe host some stuff that they normally wouldn't book too.
What are your favorite bands right now in the Oklahoma music scene?
One of my favorite bands that I have booked in like the last year is a young band from Stillwater called Dreamsicle. They're kind of hard to explain, but they're like, they kind of give me throwback, like early, like mid 2000s emo stuff, like kind of old screamo-y stuff with like a modern. We're talking about language, bro. I know. I was just listening to your episode with Taylor from King Pink, because I've known him for a long time, and I didn't know you were a big Seosin guy, so that was cool to hear.
Massive Seosin. So the first time they came to Oklahoma City, they played the Cox Convention Center, and it was a show with AFI, and I can't remember who else was on it. Taddy Porter was the local band that was on it, but AFI, I'm pretty sure, was that, and Papa Roach were the two headliners. And there was a few bands in between. Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was on it. But I was a huge fan of that Seosin record. And it was after Anthony Green had left, like it was just, and so I was blown away to see him live, and then to get to see them again all these years later at Beer City in a small room. It was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I remember my wife's a couple years older than me. I remember she told me one of the first like big shows she went to was at the Lloyd Noble Center, and it was like Fall Out Boy, Hawthorne Heights, from first to last and like Silverstein or something like that. And I was like, those are all like huge bands that could headline. The fact that you saw all of them at the same time in like
the same show, bro.
Oh, it wasn't Silverstein. It was All American Rejects. It was
Rejects, yeah.
It was Rejects, Fall Out Boy, Hawthorne Heights, and I was like, that's the craziest lineup I've ever heard. The fact that she got to see that all at once, I was like, those are huge bands now.
So Sum 41 played the Ford Center or whatever it was called at the time, and the opener on that tour was No Use for a Name.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to see No Use for a Name twice in a year, once at the conservatory or Green Door, whatever it was, what's 89th now, and then once in an arena, which I never thought I would get to see.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never went to 89th as the Green Door. It was like, I think I missed that by a couple years. Because the first time I went to 89th when it was the conservatory was like 2009. I think I knew it had been the Green Door, but I was like a little too young to ever go there when it was still that. My wife said I think she did, though. I can't remember.
I saw some legendary shows at the Green Door and the conservatory too, but
yeah,
there were some rad ones. So when the Rejects were making their ascent, to being a massive band from just an Oklahoma band, they blew up really, really fast. And they still wanted to play hometown shows for all the old school fans who had been going, but it was just impossible, they just couldn't do it. And so I know of one, and there may have been two, where they played at the Green Door, but they played as Crucial Taunt was what was billed instead of All American Rejects from the Wayne's World movies.
That's why they just changed their name so they could play more. That's pretty smart.
Yeah, play a secret show back home.
That's cool. I always kind of wonder how people even like put together secret shows. My band only did that like once, and it was because I had a show put together and the band dropped off like, I don't know, 2 days before the show. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? And my band was just like, we should just play it and not say anything. And I was like, all right, that's pretty funny. Let's just do that. So my band has technically done like a secret spot one time, and it was just because like I needed a spot filled and we were all already going to be there anyway. So let's just play. So,
that works.
Yeah, it was.
That's why when the Rejects started doing these, these house shows, I wasn't that surprised because they kind of always did random stuff like that.
Well, now they're like starting like a network or something like to help some other bands do that. I saw the other day, so I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, the bigger, like, I guess I don't really know what they are, metal, hardcore, but the band Beartooth, they did a house show tour like 2016. It was like the same thing, and I remember they played.
It was a big deal for them.
Yeah, and they played here at that house that I started looking at, my friend's house. They played at my friend's house out in Mustang, but it was like Beartooth. They were fairly big at the time. So like there were like 400, 500 kids in his backyard. Like it was, and we put a bunch of locals before them. So like still some of these people who came to Beartooth could see some local bands they'd probably never seen before. And then I remember the night before, there was a metalcore band called Vanna that was a touring band for a while, and they were here the night before, so they were still in town, and then they just showed up, and they were like, "Hey, we're here. What's up?" And we were like, "Why are you guys here?" Like, "Oh, we were still in town and we heard about this Beartooth house show." And like they just rolled up, and it was like everybody was like freaking out. I love stuff like that, dude.
Yeah, that stuff's cool. So, what's your dream booking? What's the band? What's the one band, the unicorn that you want to book that you've never gotten the opportunity to?
I mean, one of my favorite bands is actually, where is it? Right here is Gideon. They're a medium-sized metalcore band from Alabama, but I've been listening to them since like 2010. Like I literally like every time they put out an album, I buy like the poster and the CD. We saw them like maybe a month ago at Bear City, actually.
I was about to say, weren't they just here?
Yeah, and I would love to book them, and I would also love to play with them. Trying to think of any other bands. That's probably my number one right now. Because I just love them so much. Those are just personal. It's more personal than anything, but
You can't book with what you're a fan of. You're never going to make money.
I know that's kind of what I do even now. Like most of the stuff, if I book stuff that I don't like, I don't know, just like I don't feel the passion for it. I gotta be like interested in it to want to book it or listen to it or play with them. It's just something where I'm like, you got to do what you love. If I start booking just for money reasons and not for like I like this reasons, I don't think I will enjoy it. So like I got to book people I want to see, or at least would think
I totally feel your pain, man. That's the constant struggle, of the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, sitting there trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like I try to give like young kids and smaller bands a chance sometimes, but like that's also not necessarily going to help me because they've never played but maybe one show, so they don't have the pull. So like I gotta balance that too of putting bands I know people are gonna show up for, but also trying to give people a chance too, because not everybody always gets the chance or gets replies from people and stuff like
that.
And
they're never gonna grow a fan base at all if they're never given that chance. There's only one way to learn, and it's by doing it.
Yeah, and like the owner of 89th, Nick, he gave my band that chance in high school. Like we got to play 89th when it was still the conservatory when we were like 17, and that's I people gave me that chance, so I want to give people that chance. Sometimes I feel like you maybe got to earn it a little bit, but not like not to like some crazy extreme. Well, you got to play 5 of my shows first before like it's not like that, but it's like you got to have some music out and maybe played a couple shows, even if it's backyard or something. You have to have like a little experience, but that's something I like to do a lot. So
I think about all of the just like legendary shows that I've seen inside those walls. Like it's pretty crazy to go how far back from the Green Door days, especially. There were so many really rad punk rock tours that came through. But I saw Rise Against in there twice.
That's crazy to think about. I don't even know if Rise Against could play the Diamond. Like they're probably too big to play that now.
They headlined the Criterion last time they came through here.
Yeah.
And I saw them twice in there.
Yeah, there's
several bands like that.
Well, I even like talking about like the band Kublai Khan that I mentioned earlier. Like when I booked them in 2015, they were just a medium, smaller touring band from Texas, and like now, they could probably sell out the Diamond like pretty easily. Like if they was on a headlining tour with them. And like think that I saw them in my friend's backyard, and then I saw them at 89th, and I was like, the fact that I could even say that, because I don't know that they'll ever play it either of those. Like I don't think they'll ever play 89th again. I think they're way too big.
Yeah, they exploded, man. They got really big.
Yeah.
Well, Brady, go ahead and plug the show you have coming up this weekend again one more time, and where people can get tickets.
Okay, so it's Fall 50 Feet, Sparrows, Tar Creek, Tainted Beef, and Hollow Thoughts. It's at an event center called the Swice Center. It starts at 7 p.m. You can get tickets on ticketstorm.com. All of my shows have tickets on there, and if not, you can just pay at the door. Either way, all of my shows are always all ages. I never do anything at a bar. Anybody's welcome, and yeah, come hang out with us.
Well, thank you very much for jumping on here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you playing our band when you do, either if it's a new song we put out or you're just throwing us on a Sunday. It means a lot to us. So
you're welcome, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you.